You can almost feel it in the air. This grand finals is going to be absolute cinema. This entire chapter for Fortnite competitive in general could go down as the greatest chapter in Fortnite competitive's history. And in today's video, I wanted to finally go over your guys' FNCS Grand Finals hot takes. Now, if you guys are new around here, Hot Takes is a weekly series that we do where I give you guys a platform to voice your opinion on everything to do with Fortnite competitive, and this week, Grand Finals specifically. If you guys want to be featured in the next episode of Hot Takes, make sure you guys just go follow me on my Twitter, because that is where I ask for all of your hot takes every single week. Also, make sure you guys subscribe to this channel as we try our best to upload daily competitive content for you guys. If you guys want to support me even more, the best way to do so is by using code KDOG in the Fortnite item shop. Remember to come back here on the day of Grand Finals or follow me on my Twitch if you guys want to watch Grand Finals with me. Without further ado though, we have a lot of takes to go over. Let's just get this video started. I feel like if Kanata really played his hardest, he could win. Everyone's worried about Pete, Pollo, and Clix, but Kanata has an amazing drop on con and just has to play up to standards. Now, the main problem that I see with this take right here is your very last sentence has to play up to standards, and unfortunately for them, they have to play up to the standards of either Peterbot and Pollo, who are some of the greatest players of all time. In season 1, they were basically racing to 1,000 points almost, and then Clix has shown that he can already keep up with those caliber of trios in terms of points. So playing up to standards is playing almost a perfect grand finals in a lot of ways, and while that is definitely possible, and I do agree that they have an absolutely amazing drop spot, fully uncontested right now, it's kind of crazy how Kanata, Bolton, Rapid are almost in a different tier of everybody else that hasn't yet qualified for LAN. Like, I feel like on both NA and EU, Kanata's trio is the only team that we talk about in potential to win FNCS instead of just being able to qualify for LAN. And I do definitely think that it is going to be very possible for them to be able to win this FNCS still, even though, as you said, everybody is still focused on the Peter, Pollo, and Clix stuff. I think as long as this trio is able to keep up with their surge, it's going to be difficult to keep up with the amount of elims, but if Bolts, as I've said numerous times before now, is able to look like a top 3 player in this grand finals, I think it is 100% possible for them to still be able to pull off a win. And oh yeah, they're definitely going to need to psycho high ground a couple of the games, which is why I could potentially see them having not the most consistent playstyle, because in grand finals especially, knowing what we know now, with Peterbot probably going to make it into the end games, Pollo probably going to make it into the end games, and even Booga potentially going for height as well. High ground is not going to be easy to hold in this type of lobby, but if they are able to do it, then yes, I agree with you. I think they can win grand finals. The next one, I'm only going to read the first take right here. We got over 500 submissions for this week of hot takes, but Polar's Comp Report said Demas wins FNCS this season. Now, Demas to me is one of the hardest teams to predict this entire grand finals. Their track history in grands is they have shown us time and time again that they are grand finals risers. In their first ever grand finals together, they got a 5th place, and their second ever grand finals together, they got a 3rd place. As of right now, it looks like they're going to hopefully be getting a fully unconned Utopia City in grand finals. If we're just going based off their track history of going up 2 spots every grands, that would technically mean that this is their grand finals to win. I feel like each season that they have had good grand finals performances though, they have at least shown us some flashes of that performance throughout the season. Like in the season that they finished in 3rd place, I'm pretty sure they won like the very final Div Cup of the season. And I know we can't say that Div Cup performances are everything when trying to project teams in grand finals, but their 2 Div Cup placements where it wasn't able to qualify, and then 26th place while being contested. That was a major problem that they had at the beginning of the season, was that they were just contested. So instead, if we want to go off of a sample size from when they had a fully uncontested Utopia City in their group, which was group 2, they got a 1 elimination 8th and a 7 elimination win. So we only got to see them play 2 total games fully uncontested. So do I think Pixstorm and Demas have the potential to win grand finals? Yes. Am I going to personally predict them to win grand finals? No. Uppo, Focus, and Mixin will make LAN and finish in the top 10. Uppo, 6th and 8th in both grand finals. Mixin, one of the best Polish players ever. And then Focus finally went from 50 ping to boot camp at 0 ping. Plus, they have guaranteed surge by trading with Savage or just third partying if resistance base gets contested. Now, I wonder if Focus, Mixin, and Uppo, since if you guys don't know, they're currently landing at the split right next to the resistance base, case, I'm curious if they would rather have Savage be fully uncontested so they can trade Surge with him every single game, or if they would rather him be contested so that they can potentially clean up and get free Elim points every single game. I wonder what they are currently valuing more. Now, I feel like people talk about Zero Ping Focus like he's some sort of legendary Pokemon or something. Every single time he goes through Zero Ping, it seems to get like the most mentioned thing all the time. I do personally believe and agree that this team has the ability to make LAN. I think I honestly have been higher on this trio than a lot of other people have been throughout this season, but I definitely don't think that this is the worst take at all, and I do probably agree with you as well. Poyo, Agers, and Cold will all outperform Peterbot this FNCS. Now, of course, I'm assuming that you mean in terms of like an individual performance, and I honestly think that this is definitely something that is possible. If there was like a betting app and I could bet on if this actual exact thing would happen, would I bet on this? Probably not. I feel like from all of the clips that I have seen of Peterbot talking, he seems to be as motivated as ever.
It's pissing me the off on everything I love on winning this grand. It's actually making me mad. I've been playing Fortnite for 13 hours every day, bro.
I think for the first time in a very long time, he actually has real doubters again, because if we just look at the past 2 years for Peterbot, pretty much every single grand finals he enters it as the heavy favorite to win. People would always say like, oh, is Peter eventually going to win 10 FNCSs and things like that? And now for the first time, the entire narrative this season has been, oh, you're getting absolutely destroyed off spawn, you're too scared to contest Poyo, so you have to go to a different drop spot, and they're not even the favorites to win FNCS anymore. So I think that he personally himself, just based off of what I have seen from him talking, I can't speak for Cold or Ritual, but it also looks like they are grinding as well. But Peter says he's been playing the game 10 hours a day. He's been playing Surge trading maps with Clix. I actually want to show this clip of Clix talking about something that him and Peter were actually doing.
Want to know something crazy that like I might call Pete for being smart, or it wasn't a point? Peter started hitting me up 5 days ago because he wanted to DM or prac me, and we did it all off stream. And transparently, I 20-0'd him in the Bloom fights 4 times, and he kept on going. He kept on going and kept on wanting to go, to the point where now we go back and forth like it's an even number. And then he just announced that he's going brutal, which makes me figure out that he always wanted to do this because he wanted to trade me from brutal on Supernova and figure out how I beat. So like in my head, like, is he smart enough to go all the way back to literally set up timelines on how to do it, or was it just a coincidence? That's where I was like, I was like, wow. When he announced that shit yesterday, I was like, wow, no wonder. That's why he's been Bloom fighting me.
Personally, to me, I think there is only a couple of players that have the pure talent to be able to outperform Peterbot in an FNCS Grand Finals, and that is the 3 names that you listed between Poyo, Agers, and Cold. But I also think Iamzo has to be in that discussion as well. And maybe if he is performing to his max capabilities, Bolts could potentially maybe be in that combo as well. I think this is a really interesting take, and it's kind of hard to either agree or disagree with it because we won't really know until after Grands happens. But just based off of pure statistics from the season, this hasn't necessarily been Peter's best performances in the finals lobbies that he has played in. Obviously, we know a lot of that does come off the back of him being contested. So honestly, I'm kind of in the middle with this take right here. I don't think all 3 of them are going to outperform him, but I think there definitely is a chance that Peterbot finishes as like the 3rd best player in this grand. Seti, Yapko, and Panzer will dominate and qualify for LAN easily. Their fragging ability is there, plus with smart players in Seti and Panzer, they can navigate themselves through an endgame with ease. Now, I don't think anything is necessarily going to be easy in this grand finals for either NA or EU, especially when it comes to the talking about qualifying for LAN. On EU, I know there is 4 total spots, but this LAN is still going to be an absolute bloodbath for who is actually going to be able to take those final spots. I pretty much said this the entire season. I was always higher on the Seti, Yapko, and Panzer trio than the Cammy, Hari, and iDrop one, and so far Seti's trio has looked like the better team. And pretty much for exactly what you said, I did believe in their fragging ability over Cammy's trio. Do I actually believe in their fragging ability relative to the rest of the lobby? I'm not sure necessarily how high I am on that regard. Like, do I think that this is even a team that can finish with like top 5 most elims in a grand finals? Probably not, but as of right now, I do think this will probably be one of my LAN predicting trios, but I definitely don't think it's going to be easy. King, PHZen, and Phaser will top 3. They have looked incredibly good in their Heat plus scrims, have Uncon Lone Wolf for good surge trading, and have really no pressure on them because no one has super high expectations. I honestly really like what you said at the end right there, and it did make me think. When they're on Brazil, they probably have the highest expectations every single season because they're probably expected to win almost every single grand finals over there. But now that they came over to NA, people already kind of clown on them for having a bad performance on EU, even though they're basically triple contested at the edge of the map. They really don't have any high expectations on them in this grand finals. They've already qualified for LAN. They're strictly here just to get extra practice. Now, am I going to say that I think King Phaser and PHN are going to top 3 in grand finals? No, most likely not. I'm still higher on the trios of Pollo's trio, Clix's trio, Peter's trio, and Kanata's trio than King Phaser and PHN. Do I even necessarily think they can top 5? I think it is going to be very dependent on how many of the other big name trios are actually going to be contested. So I think at the very max, I can say King Phaser and PHN will finish in like 5th place. I think a top 3 though is definitely just too high for them. Mr. Savage is getting top 5 minimum in grands because he is Uncon, and the last time they got Uncon, they placed top 4 in Showdown in a set lobby. So of course, if you don't know what he means by Showdown, the Star Wars season, they finished 4th place when they did have a fully uncontested POI. Now, we gotta be real here. The last time that they were fully uncontested was quite literally this past weekend in FNCS Group 3, where they were just barely able to qualify for grand finals by 1 singular point, and their match history in that was a 8 elimination 6, 6 elimination 3rd, 1 elimination 14th, 0 elimination 25th, and a 7 elimination 5th. And there already is some big possibilities that Rax's trio is just baiting this whole time, and they're still going to end up contesting Mr. Savage, Shap, and Rezon anyways. But I think it is kind of crazy to say that this trio is like going to get a top 5 minimum based on 1 singular performance that we saw them in a Star Wars season, which I think, if we're just being real, they look a lot better in that Star Wars season than they pretty much have this entire season right now. Everybody is underestimating Clix. He doesn't need the top teams to be contested to win. This is still his FNCS, but everyone changed their minds when Domain got destroyed. Now, I do kind of agree with this statement to a certain extent. We literally saw this just last season when Peterbot was fully uncontested, Clix was fully uncontested, and Pollo was fully uncontested. Clix was the only trio that was able to give Peterbot, Cord, and Ritual any fits at all, and they quite literally almost won grand finals too. I don't think we can act like Clix's chances to win FNCS are just completely over now, but I don't think that he is necessarily the favorite to win this FNCS anymore either. I also agree that he doesn't need the top teams to be contested in order to win. I think if Pollo and Peter were contesting each other though, he definitely probably would have won. This is definitely going to make this grand finals a lot more difficult for him to win, but I do believe that if he is able to win, then nobody can say that this grands is Mickey. Nobody can say that the only reason why he won is because Peter and Pollo were conning each other. People are going to have to give him the credit, and it also takes off a lot of the pressure that if they were somehow not able to win under those circumstances, then it's just because, unfortunately for him, he had to go against 2 of potentially the best trios in the entire world. If I had to pick a team to top 7 that's unexpected, it's probably Josh's team. Now, if you don't know who that is Curve, Josh, and Tyler, the trio though that is currently contested at Outpost Enclave. I think if we are talking just the most unexpected teams to be able to top 7, my picks would either be Taki, Eshu, and Vert, or this trio right here. This trio's performance in grand finals though is going to be heavily impacted by whether or not they are contested off spawn by Rise, G-Money, and Aviv. We've seen Josh's trio recently try to land at Flooded Frogs, but if Muzz's trio is able to qualify for grands, then they have already announced that they are going to be going Flooded Frogs. So I think Josh is really hoping that Muzz isn't able to qual right now, because if that does end up happening, he's probably gonna have to go back and contest Outpost Enclave, and I don't think there is really any way they're going to be able to top 7 from that situation right there. But I do have to say, I probably about half agree with this take right here. Thomas HD won't make it to grands and could retire in the next 2 to 3 seasons. Now, I feel like every single one of these hot take videos, we always get a hot take about somebody retiring, and I feel like a lot of the retirements in the Fortnite pro scene, unless they're announced predeterminedly, they always seem to just come out of nowhere. So I don't even feel like I can necessarily try to make a prediction on when Thomas HD is going to retire. We saw after what happened to them in the group stage where they weren't able to load into the game, he did end up tweeting out that it's like time to move on to a better esport or something like that. So I think that the writing is potentially on the wall for a Thomas HD retirement. environment, but at the end of the day, if you have watched any of his gameplay from this season, he still looks like he can be up there with the best of the best on EU. It's not like he's falling off or like he's washed or anything like that. As we all know, he is just one of the most unlucky players in this game's history, and a lot of the reasons why he is not in grand finals already right now is because of things that were completely out of his control. Bugha has a higher chance of winning grands than most teams that people are talking about. Now, I think for me personally, last season I was definitely a lot higher on the potential of Bugha to be able to win FNCS. And then as we all know, I'm pretty sure he placed like 6th place. And it's not even like they necessarily showed us anything super crazy this season either to back that up. Their 2 Div Cup placements were a 4th and a 3rd place. So they did have very solid Div Cups, but I feel like after that, they've been kind of quiet since the Div Cups have ended. And especially that you're saying that they have a higher chance than most of the main teams that we're talking about. And I'm assuming you're saying the teams like Pollo, Clix, and Peter. I don't think they have a higher chance to win grand finals than any of those teams right there. And definitely, I don't even think I would say they have a higher chance to win grands than somebody like Canada. Clix depends on if Edge equals. Pollo depends on if Edge equals. Peter depends on if Edge equals. I just want to talk about those things right there because that honestly is probably true, that a lot of this grand finals is going to come off the back on whether or not Edgy is able to win a game in the last chance qualifiers. Because say Edgy does win a game, does that mean that instantly Peterbot is going to be contested at Brutal Boxcars? Or will Peterbot decide to go back and contest Pollo at Demon's Domain? Obviously, you can tell how that affects both of those trios right there. And then if Peterbot and Pollo are conning each other again, that pretty much just instantly makes Clix the FNCS favorite once again. It's kind of crazy how a pretty mid-tier trio on NA can potentially determine how this entire grand finals goes. I think though that if Peterbot decides to stay at Brutal Boxcars and he fights Edgy off spawn, I would have to bet my money on Peter to win that fight, probably like at least 8-4 in grand finals. But that definitely does then pretty much instantly take away his main chances at being able to win grands. This is probably Clix's best and last chance to win grand finals. I don't even know how we could say that. That one I just completely disagree with. Maybe if this was like a week ago when we were making this, before Peterbot stopped contesting Pollo, maybe I could see that, but as of right now, no, don't agree with that at all. Both teams that land boxcars will win grand finals. This is one that I can probably potentially agree with. This is honestly a very solid take right here. That would mean that your predictions to win this grand finals is Vico, Vino, and Flixie, and Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual. Both trios that are definitely in some prime positions to be able to win grands this season. And this is definitely something that could happen. With the way Pixie is playing, he is definitely a top 3 player in the world right now. I'm very excited to see the discussions that come after this grand finals on people's actual player rankings. I feel like for a very long time, the player rankings have been pretty much the exact same. It's always Peter in first, Cold in second, and then after that is pretty much just a wide variety of different people in that range. But I think for the first time in a while, the current best player in the world rankings could really get shaken up. And I definitely do have to agree with you here that Pixie is one of those players that could already be a top 3 player in the world, or is a player that could play his way into being a top 3 player in the world. Even though nobody is going to put visuals in their top 5, they will get 5th place this major. I think this is another one that really just depends on what the actual grand finals final map is going to be looking like and who is actually contested. We all know they are coming off of getting 4th place in grand finals last season. This season, to say the least, hasn't necessarily been the greatest showing for them. I am still not personally all the way out on the Visuals Braised and Diminished hype train yet. I know a lot of people have already jumped off the train. Let me just say the train has already left the station. If you're not already on it, you can't jump on the bandwagon now. I do have to kind of agree with you to a certain extent that I do still think Visuals Braised and Diminished can get exactly 5th place in this grand finals. Tayson is going to top 3. This is honestly the highest I have seen a lot of people be on Tayson's trio for what I feel like is the entire chapter. Now, like we talked about with Kanata earlier, he has a very good POI with Crime City fully uncontested. I think for Tayson, I'm leaning more towards somewhere around that top 5 range. If I wanted to make like a ceiling for his trio, top 3 to me is pretty locked up between Vino's trio, Vanya's trio, and Ferdoxy's trio. If there's gonna be any surprise teams in that top 3, I would probably lean more towards Demus's trio than Tayson's trio. But at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if Tayson is able to sneak his way. Nah, I can't even say that. I don't think Tayson's gonna top 3. I'm still more leaning towards that top 5 range for him. This grand finals could be the most entertaining grand finals of all time on NA Central. I feel like what I was saying in the intro, this is a take that I 100% have to agree with. It's kind of crazy that this season's grand finals, from a pure viewership perspective, have just been banger after banger after banger. Hopefully this grand finals, and then we're going to be going into a LAN event, which is usually the best tournament of the entire year, for what has been some pretty horrific metas with surge trading and everything like that over the past couple of seasons. The grand finals has not disappointed. Peter switching was the best decision, and he is going to win grands because of it. I said it in my video when I talked about the real reason why Peterbot is leaving Demon's Domain. I said as long as he is able to get over the talking heads on Twitter saying that he got like owned by Poyo off spawn and he's terrified to fight Poyo, that this was going to be the best decision for his actual performance in this grand finals. People will talk about the off spawn rep and everything like that. His off spawn rep has already taken a pretty substantial hit this season, and I think if he went into this grand finals and got like 9-3'd off spawn, that was not going to help it at all. He had to have just realized that he had to just drop the ego. He realized that Poyo is just the better off-spawn fighting team as of right now, and he is leaving. And how can you blame someone for leaving an off-spawn fight that they are losing to go to get a fully uncontested POI that they can potentially win grand finals out of? I get if you want to say it is Poyo's domain, but I don't get how people are clowning Peterbot for making this decision. EU Last Chance Lobby is better than NA Grands without Poyo, Peter, or Clix. Now, this is a debate that's been going on Twitter over the past couple of days about like the EU Last Chance Lobby being better than like the top 7 on NA, I think some people said. But this take right here is just completely just insane to even say in general. That's like saying the 2017 Warriors without Steph, KD, and Clay would be worse than like the LeBron Cavs teams that they were playing. Like, obviously, if you take off the best trios from a region, the region is not going to be as good. And even still, if you took out those 3 teams, I still don't agree with you at all that the EU Last Chance Lobby is better than a grand finals lobby without the 3 best NA teams. And if you guys have watched any of my videos, you know I'm not like an NA defender or anything. I do still think EU is the better region, and I don't even think there's necessarily an argument for saying that NA is better. But I think takes like this is where we get a little bit crazy. Ferdoxy either wins or doesn't top 5, no in between. Now, this is definitely a hot take, but this is not a hot take that I can necessarily agree with. They literally got 2nd place last season. They have Supernova Academy completely uncontested. They won a Div Cup this season. I feel like even if they are not going to win FNCS, they're still pretty much penciled in for a top 3 spot in this grand finals, and anything outside of that top 3 for them, I feel like is going to be seen as a disappointing performance. So I do not personally think I agree with this take right here. I think Brutal Boxcars is actually the better drop spot than Demon's Domain. This one is also a very interesting take that I did think about for a little bit, and I think for things like Storm Surge, it definitely is. And if you're also able to get the Spire every single game, you can have kind of a comparison in loot. But at the end of the day, the team that is landing at Demon's Domain is literally going to have an Infinite Shield coin and a Mythic AR every single game as well. I don't think I can necessarily agree with this take, but I think Brutal Boxcars is a lot better of a drop spot than a lot of people really realized. Although everyone says that Vino, Vico, and Flixie is a top 10 trio, I think they will flop again like last FNCS. Now, first of all, I don't know if you mean top 10 trio in the world or top 10 trio on EU, because if you're saying they're only a top 10 trio on EU, I don't know what Fortnite you have been watching, but it is not the one of this season or just this entire chapter in general. And to also say that you think they will flop again like last FNCS, can we remember that last season they didn't even have a drop spot on day 1, and then on day 2 they were contesting one of the other best teams on the region and still finished in 6th place. I don't know how we can say that that was a flop performance in any way, shape, or form. This has to be one of those takes that is like literally just rage bait. No French players qualify to LAN. Now, unfortunately, considering that we have a French LAN this season, this really does suck that it is a real possibility that this does end up happening. I think we definitely do have some very good French representation in this grand finals, and a lot of these trios also have been looking very solid as well. Like if we're just talking about trios like Akira, Kurama, and Wurex, they literally placed 2nd place in a Div Cup, have looked very solid in Eval Cups and their group stage as well, and with them getting a fully uncontested drop spot, there is real potential for them to be able to qualify qualify for globals, and I 100% want to see a French team in globals just because of all of the support that they would actually get and for how strong the French community is in general. But as you said right here, there is still a real possibility that we just don't get any of that this season. Other than that though, as always, let me know which one of these takes you agree and disagree with in the comment section down below. I am so hyped for grand finals starting in just a couple of days. Remember, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, as we try our best to upload daily competitive content for you guys. If you guys want to support me even more, the best way to do so is by using code KDOG in the Fortnite item shop. Make sure you guys come back to this channel or follow me on my Twitch if you guys want to watch grand finals with me. YouTube says enjoy one of these two videos up on the screen right now, so go check them out if you guys haven't already. Thank God for another day, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.